Mr Sims.
Thank you, Mr President. I move that a select committee of the Legislative Council be established to monitor and scrutinise matters relating to the management of the COVID-19 response.
Is that seconded? Okay, it's seconded. Mr Sims.
Thank you. Mr President, the purpose of this motion is fairly clear. That is to establish a select committee of this Council to monitor and scrutinise matters relating to the management of COVID-19. And the range of matters within the remit of the committee are outlined in the motion, so I won't go through them all. But in particular, the committee would be looking at government responses to outbreaks or emerging threats, public information campaigns, prevention and mitigation measures, vaccination, contact tracing, treatments, any advice provided to the state government, learnings from previous responses and, of course, other related matters. The genesis for this proposal, Mr President, is the joint parliamentary committee that was established looking into COVID last year, following the inclusion of COVID in the Public Health Act. Members may recall that the Greens negotiated effectively with the Malinowskis government to ensure that we established that committee as an important accountability measure to look at how the COVID response was unfolding in our state. The committee concluded in November. One of the recommendations of the committee was that there be an ongoing parliamentary committee to look into COVID and the state response, and so this motion is consistent with that recommendation. I have had preliminary discussions with the Labor Party and the Liberal Party and others, and I understand that there is broad support in the parliament for what is being proposing, and I intend to bring this to a vote in the next sitting period. With that, I conclude my remarks.